Do you ever get the feeling that you're a fraud? That everything you've achieved is just down to luck? That somehow everyone else has something that you just don't, and it's only a matter of time before they realize it? Well, you're not the only one. Imposter syndrome is something that I've suffered with for years, and I still do today. But did you know it's something surprisingly common for highly accomplished physicists and astronomers too? In fact, some of the highest profile examples include Jocelyn Bell Burnell and Richard Feynman. Hey Space Cats, I'm Dr. Maggie Liu, and this week we'll be talking about imposter syndrome in physics and astronomy. Now, if you've ever felt the pressure of imposter syndrome in any field, know that you're definitely not alone. Everyone struggles with self-doubt at some point, from students just starting out to even established professors. We can often feel immense pressure to succeed, publish groundbreaking research, and then fit into that lone genius stereotype. But I can't stress how important it is to acknowledge these feelings and remember that you're not an imposter. Your achievements are real and you deserve to be where you are. So that's where having someone to talk to can make a world of a difference. This video is a paid partnership with BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online platform that connects you with credentialed therapists who are experienced in helping people work through challenges, including imposter syndrome. I've been using BetterHelp for a couple of weeks now, and I've been so impressed by how quickly I was matched with a therapist who truly understood me and my problems. I love that with BetterHelp, you can talk with a therapist over video, phone, or even message, whatever you're most comfortable with. And because it's online, it's so easy to fit in therapy into my own busy schedule. You can log in wherever you are, whether that's your home, your lab, your observatory, literally anywhere. And there's also the option of group therapy sessions that give you a chance to connect with others who might be going through similar things. So you don't have to feel alone on your journey. But I much prefer the webinars, which helped me better understand my problems and gave me the tools to deal with them. So if you're ready to start tackling imposter syndrome or any other challenges getting in the way of your goals, consider heading to betterhelp.com/spacemog to get started, and you'll get a 10% discount on your first month. Let's work on building a mindset that's limitless as the universe. So on imposter syndrome in physics and astronomy, something you probably don't know about me is that I really struggled through my PhD. In my first year, I would be terrified in anticipation of meeting my supervisor. I would just almost always burst out crying knowing that we had to meet because I always felt like I wasn't good enough. I didn't understand things straight away. It took me so much time. I'd sit through seminars and I wouldn't understand 90% of the content. I had an abusive supervisor who would belittle me, say things like, "How do you not know this?" Or, "If you're not putting in 80 hours a week, then you're never going to make it in academia." I always felt like I was a fraud, and I convinced myself that they were going to kick me out eventually. And I would just work myself endlessly all through the night. 24/7, I was just completely exhausted and miserable. Imposter syndrome is definitely something that isn't talked about enough in physics and astronomy or in academia in general. My supervisor had 3 PhD students, and I always felt like my achievements were tiny in comparison to theirs. I was lagging behind them. But later on in my PhD, one of them actually had a mental breakdown. Panic attacks became a recurring torment for her, and it wasn't until then that I finally realized we'd all been suffering. The weight of imposter syndrome had been silently crushing each of us. I wish we'd only talked openly about our struggles, because then we might have been able to support each other. My friend might have been able to finish her PhD. I think the illusion of isolation fostered by this competitive nature in academia prevented us from recognizing that we were all grappling with that same inner turmoil. Now, you're probably thinking that I was just a stupid student back then, that I'm much more established now, but actually imposter syndrome never ends. I have tenure now. I have a permanent position in academia, but I still think it was a mistake, that I got lucky. Yeah, I still think that it has nothing to do with all the hard work that I've put in over the years and all the extracurricular I do. I got a research fellowship from the European Space Agency, and they still asked me to go back to work for them. But again, it still feels like luck. Any praise that I get, I always downplay it. And no, it's not just me either. One of my favorite books is this one, Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, written by arguably one of the best physicists to have lived, Richard Feynman. He won the Nobel Prize in 1965 for his fundamental work in quantum electrodynamics. But when you read the book, you really get a sense of his imposter syndrome. Despite him not calling it so, he describes himself as a faker. He calls himself ignoramus, which means like stupid person, an idiot or illiterate. But we all know that he wasn't this at all. Jocelyn Bell Burnell, the discoverer of pulsars, she famously experienced imposter syndrome as a graduate student. She felt like she didn't belong in her male-dominated field. Did it help that her supervisor took all the credit for her discovery? Probably not. But even after her groundbreaking discovery, she struggled with self-doubt. And even Albert Einstein has the infamous quote that I have no special talents, I'm only passionately curious. Some of you may not know this, but there are some doubts that Einstein even came up with relativity. He didn't do particularly well in school, but on the other hand, his wife was an absolute genius. And there is rumors that she actually came up with the theory and he took all the credit for it. It doesn't help that in his letters, he would occasionally express a sense of inadequacy. For example, at one point, he referred to himself as a swindler, hinting at a feeling that he might not be as competent as others believed, a classic feature of imposter syndrome. If you're interested, I may one day tell you the full story about the rumors around Einstein and his fakery. But back to imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a common experience even among the most accomplished individuals. If you're struggling with these feelings, know that you're not alone. I would say that my experience during my PhD taught me a valuable lesson about the importance of just fostering this kind of supportive and understanding environment within academia, with your colleagues and your fellow students. I think breaking down the barriers of silence around mental health challenges is really, really important so that we can create this space where we can feel safe to share our vulnerabilities and seek help. If we can acknowledge and address imposter syndrome, we can literally empower ourselves and future generations to embrace their talents and contributions without fear of inadequacy. I just want you to remember that you're not alone. Everyone makes mistakes. It's okay to not know everything. If you think you've got imposter syndrome, try to focus on what you've achieved so far, your successes and accomplishments, and reframe those negative thoughts into positive ones and seek support from your peers. Imposter syndrome is everywhere, but it is manageable. Anyway, that's all the time I have for this week. Thank you to my YouTube Perks members for supporting as usual. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to leave me a like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out BetterHelp in my link below.
Hey space cats, fly with me to the stars, faster than light, soaring past Mars, unveiling the cosmos, new worlds to explore.